Superman becomes a star. Let's look at the vocabulary. Economic, having to do with money and how it is earned and used. Origin, the point or place where something begins or is created. Disguise, clothes or other things that you wear so that people will not recognize you. Politicians, people who are active in the government. Took advantage of, used unfairly for personal gain. The year was 1938. Americans were in trouble. Millions had lost their jobs. Hundreds of thousands were homeless. It had been like this for nearly 10 years. Things seemed hopeless. But wait, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's the world's first superhero. That's right. The first Superman comic book came out in April 1938. The U.S. was in the middle of the Great Depression. That was an economic crisis. People needed something to make them feel better. They needed someone who fought for the poor and the powerless. Superman was their hero. This is his real origin story. In the beginning, Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. They grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. They went to high school together. Siegel did the writing. Shuster did the drawing. They gave their hero a disguise. You can see in the picture, Jerry Siegel left and Joe Shuster on the right. Next is the picture of the action comic book that they made, and a picture of people standing in line. Tough times. People wait in line for bread during the Great Depression. The first Superman comic book left was created during this difficult time in American history. When he wasn't Superman, he was a newspaper reporter named Clark Kent. As Kent, he was quiet and gentle. As Superman, he would fight for anyone who was powerless. The people's hero. In the 1930s, many people felt powerless. During the Great Depression, 1 in 4 Americans lost their jobs. Millions left their homes to find work. They stood in long lines to get free food. Many Americans felt angry about the problems they faced. They blamed the rich and the powerful. They blamed bankers, factory owners, and dishonest politicians. These were Superman's enemies too. In the early comic books, Superman fought evil businessmen. He went after a mine owner who had put his workers in danger. Superman also battled a car maker who made unsafe cars. Years later, Superman would fight mad scientists who wanted to destroy Earth. But at first, he saved people from real-world villains. Rise of comics. Superman helped Americans. He also helped comic book companies. 5 years before Superman, comics were only printed in newspapers. After his arrival, 10-cent comic books flew off the shelves. Each Superman issue sold 1.3 million copies. The biggest comic book companies created many superheroes. DC Comics was one company. It had Green Lantern. He beat up evil bankers. Batman was another DC hero. He fought criminals in Gotham City. Marvel was another company. It had Captain America, the Submariner, the Human Torch, and more. After Superman arrived, 9 in 10 kids read comic books. A lot of adults did too. Unhappy ending. Siegel and Shuster invented the superhero. They also made a fortune for DC Comics. But Siegel and Shuster never got rich. They had sold Superman to DC. They got paid just $5 a page. A big company took advantage of 2 ordinary guys. Now that sounds like a job for Superman. Superheroes take over the world. They're everywhere these days, but why? Our world has big problems. There's war, there's disease, there's climate change. It's easy to feel powerless. But in the movies, one superhero can save the planet. Wonder Woman can end a war by killing a god. The Avengers can travel through time to save half the universe. The world loves superheroes. Last year, fans spent more than $6 billion going to superhero movies. And why not? As you eat popcorn, you leave reality. You enter a fantasy world, and good always wins against evil. But there's another reason we love superheroes. They are who we want to be. We watch Clark Kent become Superman. It reminds us that ordinary people can do great things. We watched T'Challa fight for his throne in Black Panther. It makes us feel brave. We believe we can make a difference in our school and stand up to bullying. These characters help us to be our best selves. They make us want to do what's right. Now let's pretend that head of DC Comics just called. He wants you to create a new superhero. Who will that superhero be? What will he or she fight against? Answer those questions. Your answers might tell you just as much about yourself as they do about your superhero.